Now here's another aspect to obesity. Consuming too much sugar also has another, more insidious effect. As we eat more and more sugar in order to feed our starved cells, the effects of the insulin are lessened. Over time, the cells become resistant to insulin. The cells do not open up to let the glucose in, which causes the pancreas to secrete even more insulin to get them to open up. This can lead to a condition known as insulin resistance. This makes you eat more of these same foods that are in turn making you fat. The cells never get fed, so the body just wants more sugar to try and compensate. The body burns less fat for fuel and stores more fat. This whole process causes insulin to circulate in the bloodstream almost nonstop throughout your day, thereby making it more and more difficult to burn fat. In other words, you get fatter still. Note you may also have difficulty building muscle as protein synthesis is inhibited. Even if the pancreas manages to keep up, you get high fasting glucose levels, high triglycerides, high blood pressure, low levels of HDL, the good cholesterol, further worsening insulin resistance, high levels of small and dense LDL, the bad cholesterol. We're going to talk more about LDL particle size in Module 4. This is what is called metabolic syndrome. In the worst case scenario, the pancreas gives up and you can get pancreatic exhaustion and eventually develop type 2 diabetes. The pancreas stops secreting enough insulin, or the cells stop responding to the insulin, or a combination of both A and B. Over 18 million adults, or 11% of the population, have doctor-diagnosed type 2 diabetes. It's estimated another 7 million have undiagnosed type 2 diabetes. Before 1960, the rate was less than 1%. Worse still, this used to be called adult onset diabetes, unheard of in children until the 1980s. Now over 250,000 children have doctor-diagnosed type 2 diabetes. The major risk factor in developing type 2 diabetes, both for adults and adolescents, is obesity. It would be one thing if obesity was the only outcome of consuming too much sugar, with the increased risk of developing diabetes, of course. In study after study, high triglyceride levels found in almost all people who are overweight is associated with an increased risk of heart disease. Worse still, evidence has shown that once metabolic syndrome and insulin resistance kick in, an increased risk of cancer occurs. The more insulin that is released, insulin growth factors are increased, and increased tumor growth can occur. So what's this all mean? If you are overweight, then most likely you have also developed insulin resistance. If you have insulin resistance, there's a good chance that you could develop or already have developed metabolic syndrome. If you have metabolic syndrome, then you have an increased risk of heart disease, diabetes, and cancer. An imbalance in fat metabolism, triggered by too much sugar and carbs in the diet, starts this all off. So if we want to get leaner, we want to suppress insulin levels in the bloodstream. This is the key to getting lean and staying lean. This allows us to burn fat. When insulin levels are high, we are going to accumulate fat in the fat tissue. When insulin levels are low, we are going to burn the fat that was previously stored in the fat cells. So anything that extends periods of insulin production creates an imbalance in fat metabolism, and we get fat. With normal fat metabolism, we gain fat while we are eating and directly afterwards while we are processing the carbohydrates. We lose fat in those breaks between meals and at night when we are sleeping, assuming insulin levels return to zero. Another way of putting this, when fat metabolism is thrown off by eating too many sugars and carbs, we gain weight because we are no longer able to lose it. So if you replace your diet that is rich in sugars and carbs with a low carb diet, even one with copious amounts of fats included, you will improve all of the symptoms related to metabolic syndrome and insulin resistance. Your circulating insulin levels will go down, your HDL levels will go up, your triglyceride levels will go down, your LDL particles will become larger and more buoyant. More on this in Module 4. Your blood pressure will go down, and you'll lose weight. Now, here's another little tidbit. Sugar has been shown to dampen the suppression of the hormone ghrelin, which signals hunger to the brain. In other words, you get hungry more quickly and more often. Sugar also interferes with the normal transport and signaling of the hormone leptin, which helps to produce the feeling of satiety, in other words, feeling full. Sugar also reduces dopamine signaling in the brain's reward center, thereby decreasing the pleasure derived from food and compelling the individual to consume more. And finally, here's something that I think is important to understand. Research is starting to show that the main culprit behind most, if not all, chronic diseases is chronic inflammation. Chronic inflammation causes damage at the cellular level by the release of free radicals, causes the buildup of arterial plaque, it's not the excess cholesterol, drives pro-inflammatory cytokines that can drive the formation of cancer, is at the root of many age-related diseases such as Alzheimer's, arthritis, osteoporosis, and so on. Now here's the important point. One of the main causes of chronic inflammation is chronically elevated blood sugar levels and thereby chronically elevated insulin levels caused by eating too many sugars and carbohydrates. Now throughout the rest of this program, I'll be mentioning foods here and there that will help you to significantly lower inflammation in the body. In the next module, we'll give you tons of practical examples of foods that are causing us to get fat and keeping us from losing it, and why sugar is the problem, in quotes, and what exactly is sugar, in quotes. Okay, that's it for now. I'll talk to you again in the next module.